Hey everybody, sorry, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to talk about another Bette Davis movie. Because as I said before, I got a hankering for Bette Davis. I got a hankering for her. She is like the chocolate chip cookie dough of old Hollywood actresses. Like, she really is a star, and I liked her in the past two movies I've seen of hers, and so I want to do a whole week of her movies, obviously, to celebrate her and to see if she's really that good and to see what she's all about, because I just can't get enough of these old Hollywood actresses. Like, they're so naturally beautiful, they're so talented, they're so cool, they're so inspirational. Like, if you were to ask me to list my favorite actresses, it would really be a bunch of black and white actresses. Like old Hollywood actresses like Jennifer Jones, obviously, Audrey Hepburn, Bette Davis, people like them, who are actually talented. It probably wouldn't be anyone from nowadays. The only one from nowadays, I really like Jill Schoen. I've always liked her. And then I love Rachel Miner from Californication and Bully. If you guys know who she is, she's really, really good. Other than that, But anyways, that's kind of off topic. But the point is, I really like Bette Davis. And I was glad to do this week, even more than the Lillian Gish week. I mean, the Lillian Gish week was hit and miss. I mean, they were all important films for me to watch. Like, I'm glad I finally got Birth of a Nation over with, because that's obviously a movie that's it should be on every filmmaker's checklist, and I got that over with, and I got a bunch of other ones over with too. But these ones, I'm really enjoying them, I'm really liking them, and this one in particular, we'll talk about it, because I don't really research what movies are available before I pick them, and I don't really want to spend money to get these older movies unless I see them and I like them enough to want to own them, to get like special features and stuff. Because a lot of these older movies, they're just all on YouTube. So why pay for them when you could just watch them for free? I mean, what kind of stupid shit is that? So I wanted to watch Dark Victory. And I'll just say that. I was supposed to watch Dark Victory. I picked that. I don't know why. And I couldn't find it anywhere to watch for free. So that got thrown out the window. And there's a bunch of Bette Davis movies for free on YouTube, and I just happened to pick this one because I read the plot summary, and I thought, that sounds really interesting. I can't wait to see that movie and see more of Bette Davis, the fantastic, sexy Hollywood star, with her big bulging eyes and her, she's got a lot of acting without saying anything whenever she's in movies. Like, she is the epitome of actresses who can act without even speaking. Because she just stares, she does a little gaze, and you know exactly what she's saying without her actually saying anything. And that really came through in this movie. Although I will say, I'm glad that Safi wasn't a part of this, because this movie really isn't a Bette Davis movie at all. She's hardly even in it. And so it's kind of like a bad pick if you're looking at it in a linear way. As in, like, oh, I have to pick this amount of movies, Bette Davis movies. And it is kind of a failure in terms of that. But it was worth it. Okay? This movie is Hell's House, and it is basically about this teenage boy named James Mason. And I thought that was hilarious. I mean, they have all these parts in the movie where, like, they have this part where the court is like, James Mason, come to the judge's quarters. It's like this little James Mason. And then there's a part later on in the movie where they're like, James Mason escaped from the institution in the newspaper. And it's like, it's just so funny, like, imagining what if that was James Mason. Like, oh, I can see why he went down the Lolita path after this movie. He got fucked up. I mean, he really gets... Let's just go through the plot normally, just straight through it, and then we can discuss it. Because I know a lot of people think that I'm scatterbrained, which I am, to be honest, because I prefer to do things that way instead of just being on this boring, typical cliche movie reviewer style where I'm like, okay, I'm going to recap the plot, and then I'm going to say a couple of words about the movie, and then I'm going to end. You know, I hate that. I hate movie reviews like that. And that's part of why I started this channel, is because I really missed a lot of the movie reviewers who would discuss the movies that they talked about. I really missed doing stuff like that, because that really is better than these stupid reviews where they recap the movie, they say 2 words about the movie, and then they're done. It's like, what kind of a review is that? Trash. That's what it is. So you got this teenage boy named James Mason, and his mom is killed in a car hit and run. And I thought that actually that it was weird. This movie also weirded me out, because I looked up and it turns out that this guy, Junior Durkin, who's playing James Mason, in real life, sadly, 3 years after this movie, he was killed in a brutal car accident. On the way back from Mexico for a hunting trip, he was killed, and he was in the car with this other child star named, I think it was like Jimmy Coogan or something, and they were in the car with his family, the other kid's family, and at one point he swerved, and the car flipped and just smashed into pieces, and everyone but Jimmy, the other kid, flew out and died. And so I was like, what the hell? Like, guys, there are so many weird-ass deaths from Hollywood. There are so, like, I don't know if I want to be a filmmaker anymore. I don't want to die like that. I don't want to die like that. That's horrible. Like, what the hell? Like, why did that happen? Did one of them sell their souls to the devil? And it's like, oh, in exchange for your temporary stardom, you will be brutally killed in a random way. Like, that's what it feels like. It's so creepy and so weird. It just feels like you could look up any old Hollywood star, and you're likely to come across one who died in a mysterious, random, bizarre way. I mean, you could even make a movie where it's like you have all these people in Hollywood and they're just dying off in horrible ways, and it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, you got this kid, and let's just talk about Junior Durkin, because I have to applaud this kid. He is so good. I loved Junior Durkin in this movie. He was so good. He really is probably one of the best actors I've ever seen. And it's funny, too, because he looks a lot like Tom Holland. And to me, the thing that I thought about him was, oh, this is Tom Holland if Tom Holland could act. You know what I mean? Like, this is the Tom Holland that I'd like to see in movies. Like, this guy, he is so talented. He is so good. He doesn't even have to say much. I mean, he is so good. And so I will be doing a week on Junior Durkin, because I loved him in this movie. And I just, these people, these old Hollywood people, they are figures that you want to look up to. Like, they are inspirational figures that you want to look at and be like them. That's what these people are. Like, they do some questionable things once in a while. You know, they say the M-word once in a while, but, and we'll get to that too, because that's in this movie as well, which was very weird. And that was the only flaw of the whole movie, actually. In fact, so... But yeah, that was weird. The fact that, I mean, just, that's so awful. His entire family and his friend all die. And then all you have left is this kid. And the kid grew up, he is Uncle Fester in the original Addams Family show. And so it's cool that he kept on acting and that he kept on living his dream, just like in A Star is Born, where that woman was going to quit Hollywood and her grandma was like, "You're going to quit now because of that? You're going to give up?" Like, that's stupid. You're a wimp, you know. I told you that with success you're going to get your heart broken at one point or another. And so I'm glad that he grew up and that he still acted, even though he lost his entire family and his friend, this amazingly talented junior Durkin. I mean, he was just so good. And it was just so weird, though, the way that his mom dies in a car accident at the beginning of this movie. It was very eerie. And I'm telling you guys, there is something weird that goes on in Hollywood for this type of stuff to happen. These type of eerie coincidences. Like, ugh. It's really creepy to think about. I really like to write a movie about Hollywood and, like, Holly weird deaths. Like, just a group of friends in Hollywood dying off in random, horrifying ways. And it's like, why is this going on like that? I'd like to make that movie, honestly. And then after his mom dies, he has no one. And so he goes to live with his aunt and uncle. Another reason why I thought this was like young Iron Man, Tom Holland. You know, it's the same. It's Spider-Man. It's literally Spider-Man. This story, you could call it Spider-Man Goes to the Reform School. And that's what it is. You have this orphan. He goes to live with his aunt and uncle. His uncle never dies, but there's this point where he meets this other guy who's living with the aunt and uncle named, I can't remember his name. He's an older guy, and he's got a weird haircut where he's got this like little, like, just, it's a very weird comb over type of Abbott and Costello haircut, but it's like, it's not even like, it's kind of curvy in some places, like very weird hairstyles from back in the 1930s. And this is the Prohibition era, and the older guy is running a bootlegging operation. And I thought, oh, he's pretty cool. He's a pretty badass guy. Like, I would support someone like him in real life. Like, if there was Prohibition, I would have worked for him, for sure. He was going to pay Junior, like, $25 a week, aka $500 something a week in the 1930s. But then this really sad thing happens where, oh yeah, and the older guy's girlfriend is Bette Davis, and there's this really weird thing where she says that Junior can visit her anytime he wants when he's feeling sad and lonely. And I get how innocent it is, and I get the fact that there's no sexual connotations directly in the script, but it's pretty funny. I mean, she's like, "You can visit me anytime you like, little boy." And it's like, oh, this is kind of creepy. She's like, "Anytime you're feeling lonely, anytime you're feeling down, you can come to me, Bette Davis." And it's like, ooh, that's kind of okay. Ooh, that's kind of weird. But she was fine. That was like her first scene, and then like she has like a scene here and there, and she's at the end. And she was good. I mean, she was as good as she always is. She's a great actress. I would definitely, if I was a director back then, I'd make a movie with her for sure. She's really, really good without even speaking. And I don't know, I want to put her in a horror movie or something. I don't know. Because, I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm not time traveling anytime soon. And if I would, I gotta be honest, if I had to time travel, I would just go to the 60s and then steal Audrey Hepburn away from her boyfriend or whatever, and then like just date her and then go back to the present. Like, that's all I'd pretty much do if I had to time travel. Just go back in time and date an old Hollywood actress, and then just go back to the modern time, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't care. I dated that woman, and like I'm good. Like, that's all I'd do if I had to go back in time. And then, of course, go to the movies back in time, too. Go to the movies and see, like, Psycho in theaters. That'd be really, really fun. Like, for the first time with all the audience. Oh, that would have been magical. So, the thing with the M-word, though, I forgot to mention that when Junior is at his aunt and uncle's apartment, he's walking up the steps, and he's looking for their apartment, and it's on this little piece of paper, and for some reason he's confused about the apartments, so he says, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch the M-word by his toe." And it's like, God, this is weird. Like, why is he saying that? Like, what the fuck? Like, it just comes out of nowhere. And then there's this guy next to him with like a cowboy hat, and he's like, what are you doing, you little boy? What are you thinking, Spider-Man? Why are you saying the N-word? And he's like, I'm trying to find my aunt and uncle. Can you help me find my aunt and uncle? I'm looking for Uncle Ben and Aunt May. And he's like, yeah, I can help you. So that was pretty weird. That was the only flaw of the whole movie, though. So, and you know what? This kid, he died a horrible, horrible way. I give him the M-word pass. His one M-word, who cares? He said it one time. It was in the script. It wasn't his fault. Who knows why that idiot writer put it in the script. It made no sense at all, context-wise. Like, he could have just said, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, where is my aunt and uncle's apartment? He could have just said something like that. He didn't have to say the M-word, but it's fine. He gets a pass. He gets a pass. He's awesome. And so this woman, she snitches on the older guy and Junior running this bootlegging operation. And Junior, he's in the office all by himself. And he's really happy. He just got this, like, really well-paying job because his uncle just lost his job. And so, again, more Spider-Man similarities there of, like, he's got to pay the bills to help his aunt and uncle so they don't lose their apartment. Like, see, it's Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man. And you can't blame him, too, for wanting to get more money, because then you see what they're eating. They're eating potatoes. They're literally they each get a potato, and I guess they boil them, and then they peel them and eat them like, ugh. Okay, it's that old potato thing where it just, all we can afford are potatoes. Just have some potatoes. It's too bad they didn't know how to make French fries, because honestly, if you were poor and you just had to eat French fries, I mean, Danny Torrance would be happy with that. So it's too bad they didn't know how to do that back then. But this woman snitches on them, and this junior, he's all alone in the bootlegging place, and the old guy is driving off, and the police come right there, and they bust in there, and they do a raid, and then they arrest the junior, and then you got the older guy, and he's just driving off like, sorry, kid. That was so funny. You know, there's lots of funny things in these older movies, like just funny little quirky things, but they're not so funny that they like ruin the movie like nowadays, where everything is a joke and the people are a joke and the story is a joke. You know, it's like there's a couple of things here and there that are funny. And Junior, there's this really good scene where, again, silence matters, because you have him in court, juvenile court, and he's waiting for his name to be called, and he says to this other kid, I got a friend in really high places, and he'll get me out of here. And, you know, it reminded me a little of Goodfellas, too, because he wouldn't rat out his older friend, but we'll get to that. And he just sits there waiting for his friend to arrive in the court, and it's just this sad, like, doomy, this doomed face that he has of, like, he's looking around, and this other kid's looking around, and they keep on pulling back this rope and calling new names, and it's such a great scene, and just no dialogue, just this kid looking around and waiting for this criminal, this piece of shit middle-aged criminal to come and help him out. And, you know, it's very, very effective scene. And James Mason finally gets called, and he refuses to rat out his older friend. And, of course, Spider-Man would have done the same thing, because he is so naive that he actually thought that the bootlegging stuff didn't belong to the adult, which I thought was pretty funny. See, it's like Spider-Man. So then he gets sent to this reform school, and it really is hell's house, let me tell you. It is hell. I mean, it is absolute hell. It is worse than being poor in the city that he was in. I mean, it is a nightmare. Like, it's really bad in there. You know, there's this one scene, and again, no dialogue, just sound. And you got this other kid that he meets named Shorty. And Shorty, he reminded me a lot of like a kid Jimmy Stewart. And he was really, really good too. I loved him too. So good. These actors are just so good back in the day. Like, what happened? Like, these actors, like, they're just so good. Like, I wish I could join like an acting group with just ghost actors from the 1930s, because I feel like I would never have to worry about trying to act again, because I could just learn from them and how fucking badass they are and just never have to worry again. But they're sitting there talking, and Shorty is telling him about how bad this institution is and how it's terrible, it's horrible, and he's really naive for thinking that his friend is going to get him out of there. And then all of a sudden, we hear a boy screaming. And he just screams at the top of his lungs. And it is so disturbing, because then nobody's affected by it but this new kid, Junior. And he says, "What is that noise?" And Shorty says, "The boy just got his because he didn't like it here." And so it's like, oh, you know what that implies. They physically abuse the boys at this facility. And you know that type of stuff went on back then. And that's another thing, was that I was really interested to see, from a historical point of view, I really was interested to see this story and to see the conditions in this quote-unquote reform school. because it's not even a school, it's a prison. Or I guess that they called prisons schools back then, but it's a prison, and all the boys have to do bricklaying work to pay for this prison to operate. And it's really disturbing. But there are some funny things that happen along the way. There's a really funny scene where Shorty is showing Junior how to do the bricklaying stuff, and he's like, okay, you just caught one brick, now you're gonna catch 2 bricks, and if you can't catch them, you'll just smash your finger off and lose a finger, but don't worry, you have 10. And he starts throwing him 2 bricks at once, and they're real bricks too. They're not like foam bricks or anything, like, thinking about like Home Alone. And he had to keep on catching them, and it was really funny. Just that was something that I really loved about this movie, was the friendship dynamic between Shorty and Junior. Or I guess I should call him Jimmy, James Mason. But I feel weird calling him James Mason, because he's not James Mason. He's Jimmy Mason, whatever the fuck. And honestly, if you want to think about this movie in terms of like a comparison, this movie was a lot like Midnight Cowboy. It was exactly the same type of thing, where this guy is very naive and he gets into this horrible situation, and the only thing keeping him going is that he has this friend, this sick friend, and then the friend actually ends up dying at the end of the movie. Shorty has like a heart condition, which is even more disturbing. The fact that this teenage boy has a heart condition, and they're making him do this horrible, laborious work. I mean, it's evil. These people are evil. They were really evil back then, and we never even got to find out his backstory or anything. There are just a couple of little hints, but really, really tragic stuff. And I love that, though. This movie, it was better than Midnight Cowboy, in my opinion. Like, this is better than Midnight Cowboy. And I'll say that again and again. Eventually, he goes from bricklaying to being a monitor. And that's where things really get disturbing, because it's basically equivalent to the Nazis, where he's walking around with this sleeve band on, where the kids know they can't trust him because he's going to rat them out, he's going to abuse them, he can do whatever he wants because he's a monitor now. And so he has this little bit of power, and he has better food, and he doesn't have to do much work, and it's really disturbing the way that they abused children back then in this way, putting them in this prison, and it didn't do anything for them. Like, you can tell this didn't do shit. It didn't do a damn thing for these kids, and they knew it too. They just were so fucking retarded that they didn't know what to do with these kids. And he's a monitor, and he has to sit in this room, and there are these kids that have to sit for hours and stare at a chalk line on the board, and they can't talk, they can't do anything, and it's creepy. It is very creepy and very sad. And eventually he tries to sneak out a letter with the help of Shorty. Shorty gets caught and put in solitary confinement for a week. It was kind of hard to watch, I got to admit. Like, it was disturbing. It was really, really tough to watch. The only reason why I was able to was because it was entertaining, and because the actors were really good. Because it was hard. It was very because this stuff happened back then. You know this stuff happened. Anyways, Shorty has a horrible incident where he faints and he's almost dying, and it's a fantastic moment, because James Mason finds him, and he sits in the cell, and he holds him on his lap, and it's a very sad moment where you think that he's going to die, and then he ends up getting taken to the hospital. And of course, what happens then after the hospital? He gets put back in the prison when he has a heart condition. I mean, really evil people. And there is one really queer thing about the movie, though, that I thought was goofy. The whole movie, Shorty calls Jimmy, he calls him Big Boy. And he's like, "Hey, Big Boy, catch the bricks. Big Boy, what are you doing, Big Boy? Hey, Big Boy. Oh, Big Boy, what are you doing?" You know, I was like, okay, that's a little weird. But it's fine because he had a heart condition, and, you know, it's all innocent. It's not like they're doing this on purpose. It's just that nowadays, in these degenerate times, you can really look back and laugh at some things that they meant to be innocent, and nowadays it's like, that's pretty funny. Just keeps calling him Big Boy. Like, "Hey, Big Boy, you want to write a letter with me in the dark, Big Boy?" Like, that's what happens in this movie. But then Junior escapes. He escapes by getting in a trash can. And it's pretty funny, actually, because he just does it, like, right out in the open. There's no guards that see him at all. The security was trash back then. The monitor, it was really funny. The monitor's like, "I'm not going to let my dinner get cold." And he runs away, the fucking retarded monitor. So then Jimmy, he escapes in a trash can on a trash truck, and he goes home to his uncle and aunt, and then he goes to the older guy, and the older guy takes him to this newspaper journalist. And it was really funny because the newspaper journalist asked the shitty owner of the prison to let him see the prison for what it really was, so that he could write an article about it and make sure that it's all good there. And then, of course, he takes him on this tour where you can tell everything has been changed to make it look like it's not a bad, evil, disgusting, despicable place. And he knows that he fucked him over like that. And you think that's pretty sad, you know, the fact that they covered up things like that back then. And, you know, and so the Junior actually goes to this guy with the older guy. And so it's funny the fact that after getting fucked over like that, the journalist, he finally got his story, and it was a really nice payoff. The fact that that guy, he got to expose this evil, disgusting place. And it ends in a very dark, and then it gets happy, but it starts off really dark because Junior, he thinks that he's safe. Bette Davis, and now here's Bette Davis's best moment in the movie. There's this part where Bette Davis says, you know, he's never going back to the prison. And she just gives her boyfriend this look. And she just stands there and glares at him with her big, beautiful eyes. And she's saying everything without speaking. And it was a really, really good little acting moment of hers. Even though she doesn't have a lot in this movie, understandably, because the plot is not about her, she did a really good job in that little part. But the police actually catch Jimmy when he's at the newspaper guy's office, and the only way that he can get set free is if the older guy who left him hanging at the beginning of the movie, the only way is for the older guy to admit that he's bad and for him to go to prison instead. And it's this very dark scene where the newspaper guy goes in there and he confronts this criminal, and he says, you know, after he did for you, he went to prison for you, he didn't rat you out because he didn't even know you were a criminal. And after he did all that for you, you're going to make him go back. And the older guy, he does this really good acting where he just kind of curls and curls into himself, like you know that he's this cowardly, weak person. And it's like, yeah, this kid is going to have to go back to the hell's house for this disgusting criminal to just have another day of freedom. But then the newspaper guy brings in Junior to confront him himself. And it's a very powerful scene where Junior is face to face with this criminal, and the criminal realizes, you know what, this is the one time where I can be a man and help out this kid who I promised to help out, and I got to do this. And it was a very, very good scene. And then we also find out that Shorty died in prison, and it's horrible. And it's just absolutely horrible. The fact that he died, the fact that Junior didn't even get to see him in the hospital or anything, because he got sent right back to the prison. And it ends, I will say the ending is kind of queer too, because it ends with Junior is sitting there, he's free now, and he's reading the newspaper, and it says that Shorty died, and Jimmy escaped in vain. He couldn't save his friend, and it shows a picture of him, very disturbing. And then Junior looks up and he says, Are you okay now, Shorty? And he says, how is it there, like in heaven or hell, Shorty? And then Shorty's ghost literally responds, and he says, it's okay, big boy. And I just laughed my ass off at that. Like, I know that it was still an emotionally effective ending, but it was really funny. He's like, how is it there, Shorty? Are you okay? And he's like, it's okay, big boy. I mean, when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna be doing live streams, and and I really want, for super chat buttons, I want them to all trigger him sitting there reading the newspaper, and then there's just a voice that says, it's okay, big boy. That's what I'm going to do, guys. So if you guys stick around for when I do live streams in the future, that is the voice that you're going to hear. You're going to hear, it's okay, big boy. Because that was really funny. So overall, I really loved this movie. It was so entertaining. It was informative without being like a shitty SJW agenda movie. The acting was perfect. Perfect. So good. And I don't know how many times I'll say so good. It's so good. Like, what else do you want me to say? These kids are fucking awesome. These actors are fucking awesome. Like, these actors, they're icons. They are iconic actors, all of them. And I would definitely watch this movie again. It is way better than The Bad Sister. It is a complete story. It's a simple story. It's a short-ish story. It's only an hour and 10 minutes. In fact, this video is almost as long as the movie. But it's really good. I loved it. I would give this movie... Sorry about that. I would give this movie a complete meal. And what I mean by that is this movie is a Thanksgiving dinner. Now, Thanksgiving dinner only comes once a year. So sometimes people, they make Thanksgiving dinner even though it isn't Thanksgiving. And that's this movie. Because I wasn't really expecting to love this movie as much as I did. I mean, this was a perfect movie for me. I might buy this on Blu-ray or DVD, whatever it's on, because it's so good and because I'd love to watch it again and again. I mean, it was very, very high quality. And everything is covered in this movie. Like, there isn't one thing that's really missing from this movie, except for the fact that, I don't know, I'd love to see more of Shorty and Jimmy, because they had such a good friendship dynamic. They bounced off of each other so well. I mean, they were just awesome together. Like, they were a perfect pairing. And so it's sad that I guess they didn't get to star in any more movies together, because they worked really well together. Really well. It was like watching, a iconic duo like Abbott and Costello, Andy Griffith and Don Knotts. I mean, that's how good these two kids were. So I'll say that this is a Thanksgiving dinner. You got turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy, stuffing, corn, I already said that. Biscuits, cranberry sauce, everything, vegetables with cheese sauce, everything you could want. This movie is a perfect Thanksgiving dinner. Perfect. And it is highly worth it. It's free on YouTube. I mean, you are not losing anything watching this movie. So I love this movie. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And I can't wait to watch the next Bette Davis movie. It might be tomorrow. It might be the next day, because tomorrow is Bette Davis's birthday, April 5th. Today is April 4th. So I might have to watch another movie of hers tomorrow. But there's a new release coming out tomorrow, and I thought that looked good too. So who knows? We'll see. Please like this video. If you liked it, comment. What did you think of Hell's House? Because I gotta say too, I saw this has a 5.8 on IMDb. I mean, God, people are really loony. Like, they're really kind of... I mean, God, who the hell would give this a 5.8 out of 10? Are you insane? Are you insane? This movie's awesome. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more Bette Davis reviews. I can't wait to watch more of this chocolate chip cookie dough woman. I can't wait to see more of her acting, because she is definitely really good. Although I will say, after watching this movie, I kind of think Junior is a better actor than her. And I know that I still need to watch more of her, but in this movie, he stole the show. Him and Shorty, they stole the show from everyone, and they gave, I would say, like, award-worthy performances. Really, really good. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.